The rules of the game have changed, and not for the better. The global trade landscape, once a beacon of cooperation and mutual benefit, is now marred by uncertainty and tension. For decades, the United States championed free trade and a rules-based global order. It was a time when nations worked together to create a system that promoted economic growth and stability. It led the charge in establishing institutions like the World Trade Organization to ensure fairness and transparency in international commerce. These institutions were the bedrock of a global economy that thrived on predictability and trust. Yet recent actions by the US have sent shockwaves through the global economy, causing markets to tumble and investors to worry about the future, leaving even its closest allies questioning its commitment to these principles. The trust that took decades to build is now being tested in unprecedented ways. The imposition of tariffs on goods from Singapore, a long-standing trading partner, has exposed the new reality. In the eyes of America first, even friends are fair game. This policy shift has not only strained diplomatic relations, but also disrupted supply chains and increased costs for businesses and consumers alike. This abrupt shift has left many bewildered. Allies who once stood shoulder to shoulder with the US in promoting free trade now find themselves at odds with American policies. Singapore, a small island nation with an outsized role in global trade, finds itself at the sharp end of this policy reversal. Its economy, heavily reliant on trade, is particularly vulnerable to these changes. The new tariffs, a cornerstone of the former Trump administration's protectionist agenda, have cast a long shadow over the future of global trade. The ripple effects are being felt far and wide, from small businesses to multinational corporations. It is a stark reminder that the era of American-led free trade is fading, giving way to a more fragmented and contentious global trading environment, replaced by an increasingly uncertain and volatile landscape. The stability that once underpinned global trade is now in question, and nations must navigate these turbulent waters with caution. The implications of this shift are profound, affecting not just economic policies, but also geopolitical alliances and global stability, particularly for nations like Singapore that have built their prosperity on the principles of free and fair trade. The stakes are high, and the path forward is fraught with challenges. As the world grapples with this new reality, one question looms large: can the global trading system survive without its most powerful advocate? The answer to this question will shape the future of international relations and economic policies for years to come. The tariffs imposed by the United States represent a significant escalation in protectionist measures. These measures are not just minor adjustments, but a dramatic shift in the way international trade has been conducted for years. The global trade landscape, which has been built on cooperation and mutual benefit, is now facing unprecedented challenges. These are not mere tweaks to existing trade agreements, but a wholesale rejection of the principles that have underpinned global commerce for decades. The principles of free trade, open markets, and international cooperation are being questioned, leading to a climate of uncertainty and tension among trading nations. The tariffs, initially introduced at a base rate of 10%, can potentially surge to a staggering 50%, impacting a wide range of goods. Everyday items, from electronics to clothing, could see significant price hikes, affecting consumers and businesses alike. The ripple effects of these tariffs are far-reaching, touching every corner of the global economy. This aggressive approach has drawn condemnation from economists and policymakers worldwide. Experts argue that such measures could lead to retaliatory actions from other countries, further escalating trade tensions and potentially leading to a full-blown trade war. The tariffs are seen as a blunt instrument, likely to harm both the U.S. economy and its trading partners. American farmers, manufacturers, and consumers are expected to bear the brunt of these policies, with higher costs and reduced access to international markets. The move has also raised serious concerns about a potential global trade war, a scenario that could derail global economic growth and usher in an era of uncertainty and instability. The interconnected nature of today's global economy means that disruptions in one region can have cascading effects worldwide. The impact of these tariffs is particularly acute for small, open economies like Singapore. These nations, which rely heavily on exports and imports, are especially vulnerable to shifts in global trade policies. The uncertainty created by these tariffs can stifle investment and hinder economic growth. Highly dependent on international trade, these nations rely on a predictable and rules-based trading system to thrive. The stability of this system is crucial for their economic well-being, and any disruption can have severe consequences. The imposition of unilateral tariffs undermines this system, creating an uneven playing field and putting smaller economies at a distinct disadvantage. The long-term effects of these policies remain uncertain, but the immediate impact is clear: a more fragmented and contentious global trade environment. Singapore's Prime Minister did not mince words when he addressed the issue of U.S. tariffs. His speech was a stark reminder of the delicate balance in international relations and the importance of mutual respect and understanding. His message was clear and direct. This is not how you treat a friend. The Prime Minister's words resonated deeply, not just within Singapore, but across the globe. This sentiment, echoed by many world leaders, underscores the depth of disappointment and frustration with the U.S. quote. S actions. The international community watched closely, understanding that such moves could have far-reaching consequences. The Prime Minister's words highlight the long-standing relationship between Singapore and the United States. This relationship has been built on decades of trust, cooperation, and mutual benefit. For decades, the two nations have enjoyed close economic and diplomatic ties. These ties have been a cornerstone of stability and prosperity in the region. Singapore has consistently supported U.S. engagement in the Asia-Pacific region, viewing it as a stabilizing force. The presence of U.S. military and economic influence has been seen as a counterbalance to other regional powers. The imposition of tariffs, therefore, represents a betrayal of trust, casting a shadow over this historically strong partnership. It threatens to unravel the fabric of cooperation that has been carefully woven over the years. The Prime Minister's statement also serves as a broader critique of the U.S. quote, S approach to global trade. It calls into question the principles of fairness and reciprocity that are supposed to underpin international commerce. By prioritizing its own narrow interests over the needs of its allies, the U.S. risks undermining its credibility and leadership on the world stage. This inward-looking approach could lead to a loss of influence and respect among the global community. This approach, many argue, is short-sighted and ultimately self-defeating, as it damages the very system that has benefited the U.S. for decades. The long-term consequences of such policies could be detrimental not only to international relations, but also to the U.S. quote, S own economic interests. Section 4. The Crumbling Foundation, the WTO, and the MFN Principle. At the heart of the current trade dispute lies a fundamental disagreement over the rules governing global trade. The United States' decision to impose tariffs on Singapore represents a clear violation of the most favored nation principle, a cornerstone of the WTO framework. The most favored nation principle mandates that any trade advantage granted to one WTO member must be extended to all other members. This principle ensures a level playing field in international trade, preventing discrimination and promoting fairness. By circumventing the WTO and imposing unilateral tariffs, the United States undermines this principle and weakens the very foundation of the global trading system. This move sets a dangerous precedent, potentially encouraging other nations to disregard WTO rules and pursue their own protectionist agendas. The implications of this are far-reaching. A world without a functioning, rules-based trading system is likely to be characterized by increased uncertainty, tit-for-tat retaliation, and ultimately, economic harm to all parties involved. Section 5. Caught in the crossfire, Southeast Asia's dilemma. The escalating trade tensions between the United States and China have placed Southeast Asia in a precarious position. As the world's two largest economies engage in a tit-for-tat trade war, the region finds itself caught in the crossfire. Southeast Asian nations are being pressured to choose sides, a decision with potentially significant economic and geopolitical consequences. This dilemma is particularly acute for countries like Singapore, which have benefited immensely from close economic ties with both the United States and China. Forcing these nations to choose sides risks fracturing the region economically and politically, undermining stability and prosperity. The United States-China trade war also threatens to derail regional integration efforts, such as the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN. ASEAN has played a crucial role in promoting economic cooperation and integration in the region. However, the current trade tensions risk undermining these efforts, as member states prioritize national interests over regional solidarity.